Hi, my name is Dalton Graham and you are listening to Uncommon.
This podcast is brought to you by Neural Media. Are you an entrepreneur or marketer who needs help making podcasts, video, or animation? Perhaps you don't have time to manage a freelancer or the budget to deal with an agency. Well, Neural Media can help you with simple and affordable content creation, saving you time and money by taking away the pain of producing that content. To learn more, head to neural.com/media. That's neurale.com/media. Play around with our pricing or request a callback directly. Listeners to the show receive a special discount by using the promo code UNCOMMON. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon, the podcast that helps you build your knowledge, skills, and mindset through interviews with unique individuals. My name's Jordan Michaelides, and I'm your host. In this episode, I have for you Dalton Graham. Dalton is the co-founder of media agency Bullfrog Media and the lifestyle brand The Tailored Man, as well as fiancé to Keep It Cleaners, Laura Henshaw. What I like about Dalton is his penchant for identifying quality in product, unlike the trend of obsessing over high fashion labels, which you often find in the space of fashion. And his creation of a men's social-first lifestyle brand showcases a really analytical mind for building an audience, which is something he's no doubt applied in his second business in Bullfrog Media. This was a fantastic discussion with one of Australia's most influential men in fashion and advertising that was so deep that we ended up going on for another hour post-interview. We touched on many topics, including quality menswear brands, the tailored man, why it's harder to say no, starting Bullfrog Media, dealing with internet trolls, and learning from Laura and Steph of Keep It Cleaner. Subscribe if you enjoy this episode, or consider leaving us a rating. Follow us on Instagram for episode promos, which is just at uncommon_podcasts, or you can watch the full interview on video via YouTube. Just search Uncommon Neural. Show notes and all previous guests are at neural.com/podcast. That's neurale.com/podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Our regulars for coming back, our newbies for giving us a shot. I hope you all enjoy this conversation with Dalton Graham. Dalton, we're live.
We're live, aren't we?
Yeah, we're live. It's as simple as that.
We've only been talking for half an hour, so yeah, we may as well get cracking.
I know. Before this, we were just having a good old gander about working with partners, which is fun.
I shouldn't roll my eyes like that.
The first thing I want to ask you now, I gave you some questions, but Laura gave me some even better answers after the fact, right?
This is a stitch up.
So in terms of icebreakers, I want to do the icebreaker as a true or false. Okay,
yep.
I'm going to give you a list and you can tell me after the fact whether it's true or false.
She probably gave you more things to say, didn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
A lot of things. So
thanks, Laura.
You are the messiest, neat person she's ever met. True or false?
So true.
Okay. You don't like running unless you have a specific path already planned.
Oh, the stories. True.
True. Okay. You eat anything she tells you if it's healthy.
Correct.
Okay.
She stitched me up multiple times, just disclaimer.
Really?
But yeah, go.
My dad often does that with my mum. It's always good. So, what's this, Joanne? This is great. You eat popcorn 5 nights a week.
I wouldn't say 5, but I've been trying to cut down. Okay. And I blame Steph Smith for that one.
Okay, so popcorn, not popcorn and chocolate is your vice. Because my real vice is Lindt.
So funny story, I'm not a chocolate person at all, but recently I literally, no joke, had my first Lindt ball 5 days ago. I didn't even know there was a gooey inside. So I know people will judge me for that, but I'm not a chocolate person. I'm not a sweet. I'm a cheese board man, not a dessert man.
Okay.
But popcorn is savoury.
You don't barrack for Melbourne Football Club, do you?
No, jeez. Definitely not. But no, popcorn I do have a lot of, but I wouldn't say it's 5, but I'll say it's true for the sake of the project.
Okay. You have a phobia of touching the sponge in the kitchen.
It's dirty. True.
Are you a germaphobe?
I'm a mild germaphobe, and I blame my business partner Marty for this. He's a massive germaphobe, and a lot of his traits have rubbed off me, and I blame it ever since 3 years ago. We travelled Europe together for work,
right,
for 3 to 4 weeks, and a lot of it rubbed off on that. So I'd say, yes, I'm a germaphobe. I wouldn't say I'm extreme, and I'm really picky when I think I'm a germaphobe.
Okay, so it wasn't something that like kicked off when you were a kid?
No, it's a recent thing, which is bad.
Really?
And Laura, I'll get back to answering. Now I'm definitely going to stitch Laura up for hers, but Laura is not someone who really is not a germaphobe one bit.
Okay. So she'll get into anything, basically.
She's happy to put her hands in everything. I'm not saying she's going to eat something off the ground that sat there for a few days, but I'm saying it's probably it's probably not the first thing that pops to her mind.
Okay. Now, thinking about your own childhood, it was interesting to going back and doing my research and finding a few little things.
Do some digging, yeah.
I did do some digging. I know you've mentioned in the past about learning about the work ethic of your father. I was just curious, growing up, are there any sort of key, principles or life lessons that you've learnt from either of your parents?
Well, to kick it off, I've largely, for most part of my life, I come from a separated family, a divorced family, both mum and dad. That probably happened when I was age 6, right. 6 or 7, and my younger sister, Jackie, was 3, 4 at the time, so doesn't have a lot of recollection, and neither really do I. I remember bits and pieces. But for most part of, my adolescence and teenage years, it was obviously as a separated family and the juggles of what that faces. But I guess, going back to your question, my father's, for an instance, did his own journey since he was about 22.
Okay.
Carved his own path, had an opportunity, grew, brought into a business and grew a fashion business called Woodstock Menswear.
Yeah.
Which he's no longer, he's retired essentially.
Really? How long ago?
I would say it would have been September last year.
Wow. So he's fresh.
He's very fresh out, but now does a lot of brand consulting, which he's always done to major manufacturers. And like I said, my background, and I've sort of grown up around the rag trade and the back end, the manufacturing side, and also the retail side.
Yeah.
So, from a hard work point of view, I reckon, especially towards the back end, retail is bloody tough, and I think everyone knows that now.
Yeah.
And it's become more and more apparent with big department stores like Myer and DJs probably not doing what they're doing, and, publicly record losses are being put out there, but retail is tough. There's not many people, especially in the men's market, which is niche, which is where he was in. There's not many success stories coming out of it at the moment.
No, and particularly when people, like with menswear, I think you said in a past interview that it's all about loyalty. Like men will often just stick to 1 or 2 stores, and I do that.
100%.
I'm terrible at that.
100%.
Actually.
Let me guess, you've got the same pair of jeans you buy because they fit properly, or the same blazer or shirt or t-shirt that you're like, no, I'll go back and get that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I buy my staples from Uniqlo. I go to...
Is it Uniqlo or Uniqlo?
Jeez, that's a
good
question.
I have this argument every day with people. I'm a massive fan of the brand. I've got Uniqlo jeans on right now.
I don't know.
Uniqlo. I would say it's Uniqlo, but I might be wrong. I've never heard Uniqlo or Uniqlo.
Because me and my partner have become a little bit obsessed with Japan, and we've been there twice in the last 18 months.
Fall in love with. I haven't been there, but I'm a distant admirer.
It's so cheap to fly at the moment. It's like $800 return with Qantas. Business is nothing.
One of my guys in my team is right there right now, and I'm like, you asshole.
Really?
Yeah. It's
an amazing place, and then when you go to the Uniqlo there, it's
Can we come back to that? I actually want to get the proper pronunciation.
I have no idea. This is where we need Lauren here, who
just to set the record straight.
Yeah, to
or
just
look it up on the
like Joe Rogan style, just to be looking it up on like a screen on the side there. How do you pronounce Uniqlo? Look, I'm going to take a punt and say the way that I've been saying it, Uniqlo.
Okay.
What was the other way?
Uniqlo.
Okay.
I just think Uniqlo.
Uniqlo. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a subtle change. But look, let's just say we're both right.
The other brands that I generally have an affinity for are P. Johnson's Suit Shop. So I mainly just get jackets made from them.
Incredible brand. Yep.
And Someday or Someplace. I can remember.
The casual wear store in the city?
Yeah, it's actually in the Royal Arcade.
In the Royal Arcade, yep. Yeah, good.
That's 3 shops, that's it. Maybe Cos every now and then.
Yeah, well, more expensive basics. A more expensive version of Uniqlo, whatever we're calling it. That's what I call Cos.
Yeah.
But you've covered, to be honest, it's probably very similar to where I do my bases, and P. Johnson's is an incredible tailored brand, and they've built a great brand from custom-made suiting.
They have. Who are your go-to spots?
It sounds really repetitive, but Uniqlo, like I'm wearing top to bottom Uniqlo now,
Really?
apart from my RM Williams, which I smash out every day.
I've not bought a pair of RM Williams. I've been told this repeatedly that I need to go get a nice pair of boots.
Look, I was an objector for a long time. I'm like, how can they be so comfy?
Conscientious objector to RM Williams.
But it's, to be honest, like my style has probably changed from where it was when probably starting or working in a corporate world where I used to wear a suit every day. Now being in an agency environment and 9 to 5 sort of hustling around the office, and no glitz and glam. Of course, I'm very lucky to go to great events and dress up in beautiful suits, and I've worked with some incredible brands over the last 5 to 6 years. But it's one of those things that now I'm literally, unfortunate for the curtain behind me, but I'm blending into the background. But I wear black on black every day, which, people will be like, oh, it's Melbourne black or typical agency, rah, rah, rah. But that's what I wear.
But that is like, as well, one of the things that's really made the Tailored Man as a brand is like that was something that you've always honed in on is comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But not being a slouchy kind of guy, still looking good,
refined,
but having comfort.
Yeah, and largely that's where it started from.
Yeah.
Affordable fashion that was relatable to the wider market of 25 to 35-year-old males as such. And there's no real, price sort of, that's our target market as a whole, and being that bracket myself. But when I started though, I wasn't really even that bracket. I was only 20, at the time.
Okay.
So this is going back 5-6 years ago now. So that was the target intended for, but that's where I knew, growing up in a retail space, I knew there was so much help that needed to be done, and there wasn't a lot out there for guys to do a quick, easy, like, that's a great outfit, I'm going to go buy that.
Yeah.
And I even look back, and it's still on there now. I look back to where I started it from, and it was headless cut off 3/4 shots that I deliberately did to separate myself from the brand, but also don't put an age or gender, or so not gender, sorry, definitely male, age or certain look and feel to what we were doing.
But that's interesting, because I felt like we were chatting about this before in the kitchen, like that basically what you had back then was brands that would always talk about, sorry, not brands, but influencer type platforms, publishers, blogs, whatever, talking about, like, often going for the top shelf stuff to start off with, and not talking about something that is within range of people's
90% of the population.
Yeah, 90% of the population.
And that was the thing that always baffled me. I looked at, as an admirer growing up, and obviously around fashion, but I would never say that I was lucky because of what my dad did. I always had really nice clothes.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have said that I was a fashion, I was so engrossed in it. And it was never really my plan to even dabble in that space.
Right. Because I was intrigued by that. Like, what came first, fashion or football?
Oh, football was a large part of my life. And it's funny talking about it now, and I still get asked a lot, like, you're not playing football anymore. What happened?
Well, people say that to you.
Yeah, all the time. And the one thing football gave me, it touches so many people, especially in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky to play at a semi-professional level in the VFL, and learn and be a part of a team at the time in Hawthorn and Box Hill that were incredibly successful. And Hawthorn going down as, over those 3 premiership years, been arguably the best team to ever play the game.
Yeah.
Over a 3-year period. And the lessons growing up before that, like, football was everything, but also, going back to your earlier question, which we didn't really answer, was life lessons from my father or mother was always have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And my backup plan was to study hard. It took me later in school, year 10, to really realise that. But also I was very lucky to go to a great school in Trinity Grammar. And I always, to my dad's, credit, he always made me know that you're lucky to go to this school.
Yeah. Did you get any threats? Like, if you were mucking around, that they'd send you? Mine was like, we'll send you to Brighton second, and people probably listening to this right now went to Brighton.
I think just leave the names out. But it was never something like a threat. It was just more, I owed that to him. He was a Trinity boy, and so there was that sort of affinity between me going there as well, and definitely lucky to go to such an incredible school. But it was one of those things he also made me realise, and it really made me accountable from, year 7, which you go in so green, you got no idea, and you really start to work things out. Not everyone, really start to work things out maybe year 11 and 12, maybe. But I know a lot of the case, it's not the case. And people get to uni and they're like, oh.
What am I doing?
Well, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a doctor. Because that's always the goal. I left school doing science to become a sports doctor.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But, it's just one of those things, I think the appreciation of going to a good school made me work hard to have that backup plan. So that was something that always resonated. It's like, football is not forever. What is your backup plan?
That's very good. Because I know that a lot of parents can get wrapped up in the parents of the sports person. Yeah, the
scenario.
Spectacle that is my boy plays in the VFL. You can imagine.
And I will tell you right now, Dad never missed a game. And it was very much that. And he used to be quite a handy footballer before he had a car crash and was on an AFL list, or intended to be on an AFL list, and had a car crash and it cut it short.
Really?
Smashed all his legs. So a lot of people used to give the tagline growing up, your father's living his dream through you, all that sort of crap.
People used to say that.
People are pretty brazen these days. Probably not as bad, before than these days. But it's one of those things that it was always my decision, and it was my decision when I left.
Yeah.
Which he hated, still hates it. When am I going back to football?
Really?
I don't have time, Dad. Simple. My life's changed.
You don't play any club football at all anymore?
Don't. No. I've been asked. I still get asked, and it's now been, what is it? Two seasons out of the game.
Okay.
Which my last game was for Port Melbourne Football Club, and an incredible club under Gary Ayres and a great culture. I did my knee in round 2. First injury of my career, of a major injury.
Wow.
Bar little soft tissue and niggles. I did not have an injury before that. And you have that fact of I was a very inside footballer and very at the bottom of the pack getting killed. Which my body is not thanking me at the moment for, but that was how I was played. And in some ways, you think you're invincible until you're not. And really, that injury, which is going back 2-3 years ago now, was really the catalyst for my business growing. It was almost a silver lining, which in turn didn't allow me to go back. I did bounce back really quickly from my knee injury. I was very diligent with my rehab, and I was always one of those things like training and ticking things off, and routine is a massive part of my life. It is now.
Yeah. I get a sense that you're a very conscientious type of guy.
Yeah.
You like things being...
I like things in a certain way. I'm not going to fold my clothes and make sure they're all right. As the earlier question, I'm the messiest, neatest person in the world, or whatever it was.
So you're not ironing your undies?
No, I wouldn't go that far. But I'm very, and I think a lot of athletes in their time, like I said, I didn't play AFL or anything like that, but at a higher level, you almost become routine, and like your life is so regimented, and especially at a top level, what you're eating, when you're training, what you're doing outside of training, how you're thinking, sleeping, everything is regimented.
Yeah. It takes over your life.
And I still do a lot of work with, AFL players now, and work-life balance. I work with a lot of them now just outside, away from football, about, what's going on next or what's happening outside of football, which is a really nice relationship to have. But it's one of those things, I am routine, but I also found I played my best footy when I started to relax.
Yeah.
I would say that I had more of an obsessive nature, especially my early days, and getting overlooked in the draft from a TAC point of view. I have to play AFL, and I grew up, I guess. I realised my lane or my life was changing, and what I wanted to get out of the game started to change.
Yeah.
My goal wasn't to play AFL, it was to be a great team and have team success, which I know that sounds like a cliche, and people say, no, I want team success. It's not.
But it's all you want.
Well, but you also, in that environment where someone getting injured is pretty much based off how far you can progress, and especially I'm not the tallest, I'm just under 6 foot, it's really tough to get a gig. As far as self-criticism goes, I was always my harshest judge, but there was things that I was never going to be as good at as someone else or that person a step ahead. And it probably took me to realise those things, not the time I did my knee, it was probably a year or two before that, of what I valued from my football journey and the things I learnt from it.
So during that time, when did you go, well, maybe I need to just start looking at things other... Like, I know that you were working
Yep.
at your father's business, and there was another business there
Yep.
for a time, all retail.
Yep.
So you learned sort of the trade of selling. I think what you really learned there was selling to people, right?
Essentially. And
Yeah.
I would say my old man is one of the best salespersons I've seen. I might be better, but no, it's...
Did he ever come up to you
Sell
and
me
go,
the
"Send-
pen. No, we won't go there. Anyway, I'm not Jordan Belfort. But, I'm very thankful that I grew up on the retail floor from the age of 10.
Yeah.
I used to help him in the store. I'd pester him.
Did you?
I didn't realise the actual knowledge and the confidence of relating to so many different people has in working in a retail environment.
Yeah.
If you open your mind and that customer service angle, still so many people don't understand it.
Do you ever get like a bit of nostalgia? So to relay the relevance for me, my dad was a printer. So for me, it was going in the factory and it was the smell of fresh paper. That was the thing that gave me massive nostalgia. Did you ever have that? Do you have that when you go into stores? Like if you go into, and they've got like the linen books or the, like the suit material books and anything like that?
Well, I would say the nostalgia is now is when someone's trying to sell to me in a store. I'm like, I'm good, mate. I'm just looking.
Yeah. I'm here to browse.
And a lot of people do that. I'm happy to browse. I'm happy to take my own time. I know what I want.
Yeah.
And look, I would hope, especially with my background, I would know what I'm there to buy. I don't like browsing like a lot of guys don't. But I think the nostalgia for me or what really hits home is, especially towards the back end of when I was out of the business, which was pretty much from the age of 2021. Like I grew up on the shop floor and then, I went to uni, playing football, working part-time for my father's business. And then I actually got headhunted for a role as a national sales and marketing manager for a Chinese manufacturing company that does a lot of imports, exports for suiting companies in Australia.
Wow.
I was in there for 6 months and then before you know it, the tailored man takes off and I made that decision.
Yeah. So where did that idea, when, in my notes, I had this whole idea of the aha moment. Like what was it for you?
The aha moment so cut a long story short, the tailored man started, it was really, I would say it started in the year of 2013, 2014.
Okay.
It actually, on LinkedIn, it says 2015, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. But that started when my partner at the time, she was studying in New York. She had an exchange at FIT, an incredible fashion institute over there. And I went over and started to really Instagram had just not even become a thing yet. It was just a platform and more in the States than anything.
Yeah.
It was released in October 2011.
Yeah.
Didn't really get going until
2-3 years later.
2-3 years later.
Yeah.
By 2012, 2013, it was still unknown. And that's where it sort of started for me. And I went over there and saw a couple of people in the States who are individuals. Some are huge now, millions of followers. And I still, I know those guys. I've met those guys over the journey. And I sort of came back from that and seeing obviously my retail experience and being on the floor and getting guys questions. Where'd you get that? Or where's that from? Or hang on, where can I get that shirt? I started to see there was a gap between advertorial from a magazine point of view and just online. What is there a resource for guys? And still now it's a niche market. The market that the Tailored Man is in, we probably have not competitors, but 4 to 5 peer publications that we are in that space together. The men's lifestyle space.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? It's that sort of catch-all, watches, alcohol, dining, fashion.
Essentially, yeah. And just on that note, we're about to relaunch the way we're doing things, which has been largely it's been a really interesting process because, as I'm sure we'll touch on later, my priorities have changed essentially in the last couple of years. But how things are done, and I'm so lucky that I started in a space where there was nothing. And it's not to say I was the first. Like I said, I saw people in the States doing it in 2013.
Yeah.
And those guys are still huge now. But I was always very conscious of it can't be about me, because the biggest thing that pisses guys off, and this is my experience from the retail floor, was guy would come in, see young, blonde hair, white guy, Caucasian looking guy, I'm not going to trust him. I'm a 40-year-old male. I can't wear what he's wearing. He's too young. The suit's too slim, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I used to sell to these guys all the time. And that's why I started pretty much straight off the bat. It was pretty much outfit inspo shots that I'd cut my head off.
Right.
was my chin. That's all you could get.
That's a good point.
I have bugger all facial hair, so you could probably put it into one. But I did that deliberately to pretty much negate that pigeonhole effect.
Right. Yeah, because I remember, like we were saying before, you would get these influencer guys here in Melbourne and it would just be them and their style. And it's sort of like the old school of looking at the Vogue magazine or Fantastic Man or something like that, where you're getting inspiration. But, you know, a lot of people would, the average man,
relate.
would never ever relate to that.
I'm not going to look like Brad Pitt. Let's be honest. Like it's and nor will any of us. And what you see, especially now with what I'm doing and been in this space for the last 5 to 6 years, is what you see in a magazine is it's photoshopped, it's changed, it's critiqued, it's cut, you know, for the extent of they're wearing a suit and you've cut all the back out just to make it fit.
Yeah.
So how can you relate to that?
Yeah.
And that's what I always thought is like, okay, we can have nice things sprinkled in. P. Johnson blazer, Uniqlo jeans and T-shirt. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So my whole outfit, okay, the P. Johnson blazer might have cost a little bit more, and it definitely probably is, but
everything else is
But the whole outfit is a foundation. And
Yeah.
I always say, in a lot of things we've done on The Tailored Man and a lot of interviews is building the foundations of your wardrobe.
Yeah. That was a thing that I've always sort of just had in my head, but realize you've documented it in a way, you know, like you've talked about sort of your, I don't know, like your pillar pieces, like a jacket or shoes or something that really stands out in the outfit or allows you to carry off as like a lattice work across many different outfits. But then you have these interchangeable things like your Uniqlo shirt and whatnot.
or a really nice blazer. You know, seasonal, I say like all the time, and I've done a lot of styling mentor and I do private styling on the side, but not very frequently, just off cases and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And obviously do it for our shoots and oversee them and from an agency point of view and also the Tailored Man, of course. But it's, you know, styling, I guess, has been a large part of what the Tailored Man is, and the foundation really is fashion styling. But I think the crazy thing about that is that people always assume that you just can go, oh, it's good because it's Tom Ford, or it's good because it's Hugo Boss, or it's good because it's this. Well, no, the jacket's nice, but the pants are not. So you could probably get the pants for that price and that price. Where I was always the one that was, and from the early days, got a Uniqlo jumper on. I might have a MJ Bale jacket on or a blazer or whatever it might be. You know, we've had a long-standing relationship with a Hugo Boss, but a Hugo Boss is not a custom-made P. Johnson suit either. That's a different price point altogether. You know, you can get a Hugo Boss suit from $1,200 to $2,000. Now, that's a lot of money. But I'm also saying, understanding the market from my background, and I've seen where they're made, essentially, and what factories they come out of, I have always based decisions of brand partnerships and any sort of partnership with the Tailored Man off quality first. Uniqlo is a great quality product. I've had the same cotton Oxford button-down shirt for 3 to 5 years, still holds its shape.
Really?
But you know what? If it runs out, and I do look after my clothes, like if it burns out, hey, I paid $50. I've got my innings out of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Happy,
and that's, guys are like going back to, we're creatures of habit, but also we're loyal, and we're also like, no, I've still got a bit more in that. Like, I got a bit more. The amount of guys I would have seen on the retail floor come in with a 10-year-old suit just because it had Hugo Boss. Now, I got this when I got a promotion. Yeah, mate, but it's 3-button, double pleats. It looks like pajamas. It looks like pajamas. He's like, yeah. And then they put a slim fit suit on. They're like, nah, too tight. I'm like, just wait.
Just try it out. You'll get used to it.
And that's really where it's at, is like a lot of things in life. It's trying something new and rolling with it. And if it works, it works.
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared to make that jump from a fashion point of view, jobs, and in all facets of life.
Yeah. Who are your icons now? Because that was one thing I read about.
Yeah, and I would say, you asked me 5-6 years ago when I first started, they're very different. I think you had jotted down like George Clooney and Sean Connery, all these. Like, I think they're your stereotypical ones. But as far as like a fashion inspiration, I wouldn't say there's a set in stone look. Like, I can't really say to a celebrity they've nailed it. You know what I mean? Because now I probably pick it apart too much.
Yeah,
I think
it's more about aesthetics, right?
It's the aesthetic, but it's also the gut. Like, I would sum myself up is, you know, apart from what I'm wearing a lot more these days, but if I was to go out, it's tailored, relaxed, casual wear.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the whole menswear market has shifted to that.
Yeah.
It's refined business, but hey, I've got a really nice blazer and I'm wearing a basic t-shirt. I've got some good sneakers on, some jeans. Cool.
Yeah.
How many guys wear ties anymore in the city? None.
It's a good question.
1% of the population. And I've done so many things at big corporate firms and styling consultancy and stuff like that. And it's just like, guy wears blue suit, white shirt.
Yeah.
I would say that's 90% of everyone wearing a suit in the city right now.
Yeah.
Hey, once someone wore a charcoal suit, great. Black suits? No. Unless you're going to a funeral, no one wears them anymore.
Yeah.
Or a black tie dinner, no one wears them to work anymore. Some people, of course, still do, but it's a minority.
Yeah, it's a very small percentage.
Small amount. And especially in the space that I'm in, the creative space, no one wears a suit. Like if I rocked up to a suit in the office, the boys are like, where are you going? Where are you going out? I'm like, no. But like it's dressing for the environment you're in. You know, of course, banks, you have to wear a suit. But do you have to anymore? Because a lot of them aren't. They're wearing a P. Johnson blazer because they can afford to wear a P. Johnson blazer. But they might wear a Uniqlo pair of jeans, but they've got $500 pair of sneakers on.
Yeah. Some Yeezys or something like that.
Whatever, you know, and like that's their choice. But it's that's where the norms of, and that's where, you know, I guess retail has seen a change in society, and also from an economic point of view is that it's suits have died essentially.
Yeah.
I still love how refined a suit makes a guy look, and a girl for that matter. Like I think it's such a beautiful thing when someone's dressed to the nines, really nice fitting suit, shirt, tie, whatever it might be. Spring races, perfect example.
Yeah. You feel like you're putting on a piece of armour in a way. Like there's something special about it.
Exactly.
Like there's a guy who made Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he has, this little clip on the JRE, the Joe Rogan podcast about that, about why was he wearing, because he was like full on dressed in a suit, tie, everything. And he was just talking about, yeah, you're right. Like the suit has been lost, hasn't it?
It has. And, you know, I'll tell you a funny little study I found out a little while ago as someone in a firm in Melbourne actually tested the theory because they were having issues with Casual Friday now becoming Casual Week.
Okay.
And now Casual Friday is pretty much redundant. It's just, you just wear, you look
Whatever.
good, you know, like whatever, you look together.
Yeah.
You're not wearing your tracksuits, but you're casual and relaxed, but you've got something going on, you know, like it's
together in tidiness, right?
That's it. It's one of those things that they're wearing all suits, and a first year intern who was, I think, 27 at the time in a law firm, was the only one to wear a tie that day. How many people you think went up to him that didn't know him or thought he was a senior partner or something like that? Most of them.
Yeah.
Because people still have that affinity and that brand look that the person wearing the tie must be in charge.
Yeah.
Because everyone else looks a bit more casual and, you know, he knows what he's doing.
That is a very good point.
And
it's that element of confidence.
100%, because
that's
let's use the pinnacle. Harvey Specter. Yeah. He's always in a great suit. Now, that's his character and he plays that character well. But it's a similar situation. Like someone is really well put together. They've got a well-fitting suit, a great all-round outfit and look. Everything fits well. It's ironed. It's all the rest. Of course, you're going to take him more seriously.
Is Harvey Specter without the suit? That's the question.
I say he's not, because we've seen him in casual wear on suits as well, and I'm a massive fan of suits, but he still looks together.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to say there's a style icon, that's probably it for me, but I don't wear as many suits as I used to, so I can't really make that, oh no, that's my style.
Yeah. When it came to this really kicking off, like, so you were posting these
three-quarter cut-off headshots.
Yeah, these cut-off headshots. Where did it go from there? Like, how does it go from that? Because we only see the end where you are now, where it's, you know, doing this stuff for Jeep and Hugo Boss and whoever else.
Yep.
I want to know
how do you get to that stage? Yeah, and it still blows me away.
What's the shittiest job that you've ever had? Without naming names, if you can.
Oh, you know, and this sort of goes back to what I was saying over equality and all the rest of it. I would never say I've done a shitty job. I think I judge each job on its merits at the time, and then when it comes through, I can tell you what, I've said no to a lot. Yeah. A hell of a lot. And if I'd said yes to a lot, I don't think I'd still be around.
Right.
Point. You know, like the point is that I think we've been
very
very
selective.
brand selective. And unless there is, and that, a lot of it, like I said, came from a quality standpoint and me knowing the brand or where it's come from or what can we work. One of the first brands I worked with going back 4 or 5 years ago was Mercedes-Benz.
Really? How did they reach out to you, or how did that happen?
Reached out through some very good friends who are still in the PR game, Romano and Beck, and very good friends of mine still. And this might even be, it's very early days. Like, I think I
How
might
many
have
years
had,
ago?
I would say 15,000 followers. So it's probably early days.
Yeah.
But they saw something in that space, and it was promoting the night noodle market, and me there, kitted up, the surroundings, all the rest of it. And from that's Mercedes-Benz has been my longest standing relationship, and now still a partner of the Tailored Man, and we have projects going out all the time, from car reviews to bigger projects.
Wow.
And now also an agency client.
What a partner as well.
It's a great one to get a credibility straight off the bat.
Yeah.
But that's where I was always, from that standpoint, is any brand we get on is almost like for the automotive industry, for example. I can't work with every automotive industry, every automotive manufacturer, because some are competitors. I can't work with Mercedes and then work with BMW. I'm not a car platform. I'm a lifestyle platform talking about cars.
Yeah.
In a different way, from a lifestyle element. Yeah, we do little bits of reviews and all the rest of it, but the stories and the storytelling itself is not so much, these are the nuts and bolts about the car, you should buy this car. It's, how does this fit into the busy man's life? Is it the inner city slicker? Is it the suburban dad? All that sort of stuff. But you have to be very brand conscious. And so I guess having that early day affiliation with one of the most recognised brands in the world and having that level of prestige and quality, I guess, set the bar to me of everything else that needs to fall in. Now, we can't go, yes, we can still be achievable and relatable, and work with a Jeep or a Holden, which we've almost worked with every single one at given times over the years, but at different levels.
Yeah.
And different levels from a partnership point of view. But you can't go from one to the other and just think everyone's gonna be happy about it.
No. And we've heard that from other people generally in the media industry. You can't just sort of, dilly-daddle around with different people at because they just hear about it. Well,
but it's also, I think the biggest thing that's been lost in this social media hype world, I call it the prostitution of advertising, essentially, is the actual brand itself and understanding the brand values.
Yeah.
Like I said, quality was for everything. I don't think anyone could attest that Mercedes-Benz is bad quality cars.
Yeah. You can't.
And that, look, I would say they're not achievable to everyone, but you can still buy one for $39,000. Now, yeah, it's a smaller car, and it's a higher entry point to that small vehicle that can be brought for a lot cheaper by other manufacturers.
Yeah.
But it's still, you can still get a Mercedes-Benz at $39,000. I'm not saying that's for everyone. I'm not saying that's achievable for everyone either. But that was, and obviously the price range goes way up from there. But it's also having the understanding of what you're getting at $39,000 or what you're buying from a Hugo Boss suit as opposed to a P. Johnson suit, and what that experience is.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that old point that you had before about what are you getting for what you're paying? As in, like, I had that similar thing because I wanted to be a sommelier when I was at uni. I was studying, I was doing commerce and all that. I was a wine waiter at the press club. I was training up, doing all that stuff. And my thing was like selecting not the most expensive bottle of Rothschild Bordeaux, like something that you could get at $100 price point, which was like drinking something at $2,000. And that's what I wanted. And it sounds 100%. Like that has always been
the foundations.
Yeah, something for you in the way that you do it, and going back to that everyman.
And that's, like I said, going back to my roots and where I've grown up, that's largely what my old man taught me, is it's quality over price point and brand. And that's in all facets. And I think I always say now, and I say to a lot of people, and a lot of now with the creative space and the world pushing so much more to people being sole traders or running their own business, which is bloody hard. I always say to people, if you're the best at what you do, you'll find work. Now, that sounds pretty full on to be like, yeah, okay, I'm the best at what I do. But if you're hungry enough to be the best at what you do, it's not like you're not going to get work. and you're prepared to work your ass off and hustle and put yourself out there, you're going to find work. You can't sit there and tell me if you're doing everything you can and you've got this dream and a passion that, yeah, you've done your research on, you've set a business plan and all the rest of it, and you're not going at it flaky, I'd be very surprised at people that aren't successful past that point.
That reminds me of that point you mentioned before about, which is so funny, what did you call it? The prostitution of advertising.
Yeah.
But that is like such a big, because one of the things I wrote here was about recognition as an influencer. Because what I've been fascinated by is the fact that still in a way, like brands are dealing with, let's call it new media, influencers, platforms, whatever it may be, in a different way to older media like
mainstream media. Yep.
Yeah, mainstream media. But what you raise is a very interesting point in and of itself. Like you see so much of that sort of bastardization of things out on, influencer promoting this and doing that.
You mean these ones holding the product?
Yeah, this sort of like, here's my bottle, here's this, tea which will make you shit for 48 hours. And you'll lose all the weight. Like all of that, you see all of that stuff. But I guess what I've noticed amongst, yourself, Laura, Steph, is again that selection of very, very specific brands.
Yep.
Like you guys must get hit up with a lot of shit regularly.
A lot.
Because people are just like, again, it does have that prostitution element to it, doesn't it? People are just like, oh yeah, they'll do it. I'm helping them out. Like,
and
how good are we?
And yes, how good are you? But it's and it takes, as this is a cliche. It's a lot harder to say no than yes.
Mm.
And I think I've applied that all the way through the tailored man. And like you said, going back to when you said, what's the shittest job? There's no shit job. There's just different levels. Some are going to be more of a headache than others, but I still committed to that job.
Yeah.
And I still said yes based off the values that I was going for.
Yeah.
The one thing that's probably changed in the last couple of years is, and been a conscious decision from myself from probably 3-4 years ago. And like I said, it still goes back to when the Tailored Man started, where I used to cut my head off, is separating me from the brand.
Mm.
And that took time because I'm the founder of the Tailored Man. And I even pulled you up on it when you put it in your caption on your Instagram post.
Right. Yeah.
Or your better half.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Like, I've worked so hard to differentiate both brands of, personal brand and the Tailored Man.
Yeah. You don't want it to be...
It's not about me.
Tailored brackets Dalton Graham man.
No.
It's the Tailored Man.
Correct. And like I said, I reckon I've featured out of however thousands of posts we've got done over the last 5 to 6 years, I would say that I would feature on those posts 5%.
Mm.
If that. I could probably count, and I can think off the top of my head campaigns where I've been in it.
That's a very hard... I could imagine, though, that would have been a very hard thing for you to do. With the, that perfectionist element coming through as well.
It wasn't that change of actually showcasing my face, which happened. The first trip was a trip to Europe with Aquila.
Okay.
Which is where me and Marty started the germophobia, and that was our first trip together, essentially.
Really?
Our first big overseas trip. It was a 3-week trip. It was a big job. Had multiple facets going on.
Where was it?
All across Italy.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. What did we do? No, London.
Yeah.
London and Italy.
Okay. How long ago was this? 3 years?
3-4 years ago?
Yeah.
2016?
I'd love to look that up.
Oh, you should. It's hilarious. That was the first time I really put my face out there. And that was a request from the brand. And I was like, And it was hard. I really tried to... I really pushed back on it. Like, I was not comfortable with it. I was not comfortable with being in front of the camera and putting a name to a face.
Why?
Just it wasn't my goal. It wasn't what I wanted it to be about. So the question is, why did I do it? Well, it was to experiment with what it could work, but also when I was posting about it, I was actually directing traffic to my personal account.
Uh-huh.
So it was a conscious decision to build my personal brand, you could have said, and it was. But also, it was conscious based off, no, we really want you to be in these photos. Oh, it's going to be so hard to... how can you show Europe and the Paris and London and all the rest of it with cutting off my head and show the Eiffel Tower in the background? It does not work.
It'd be an interesting campaign, though.
And Paris was one, now that I remember. But, it just doesn't work. Or else you may as well just shoot it in a chair in a cafe in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So it was that was probably the first time I was like, well, we have limitations in what we can do based off this. But this is when we're going to start featuring other prominent males in society and start telling their story. So I quickly pulled away from it as soon as that trip was over.
Yeah. Because that's one thing I got from what you guys do is sort of, it seems like you've, and this I think is your point of difference as well, is that element of storytelling. Like a lot of the brands, it's hard to tell because I don't want to generalize it, but I get a sense that it is a lot more editorial, where yours is like a narrative. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm glad you've picked up on it because it's been a conscious decision.
Yeah.
Especially over the last couple of years.
And it's a lot more intriguing.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
It's advertising, but a story.
Yeah.
Now, we've done some incredible partnerships in the last couple of years. And to be honest, all of that, like I said, taking away from me, I've done, Hugo Boss tutorials on what to wear to work and what to wear to this, and done stuff with Tim Robards, Didier Cohen, things like that. And so many, like my videos, for instance, with Laura and some other talent, Michael Klim.
Yeah.
And that was, my videos came about because my brand had built to a certain level and then ultimately led me to be the first male ambassador for the Fashions on the Field, which I felt very humbled to be as well.
Yeah, was that sort of like a form of, I don't know what the word is, like recognition in a way? But for you, it sounds like it wasn't that at all.
I don't look at it like that, but people would look at it like, hey, well, you achieved to build your brand enough to be positioned as a male authority in this space.
Yeah.
And you could look at it like that. I don't read it like that. And that's up to everyone else to make opinions. But I look at it as like, I wasn't working to that point. That opportunity just came out. If it didn't happen, I still would have been working in the same direction.
Yeah, it's like, who gives a shit? I'd continue going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it makes more testament now of sort of, well, I'm not really involving in that space much at all anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm still, of course, involved and doing things with Laura and all the rest of it. And of course, those things pop up, and they do pop up with personal gigs and all the rest of it. But a lot of that personal and that conscious decision to separate the two brands was, well, I have my life and I'm not going to share my dog on there. I'm not going to share this. Like the Tailored Man is its own thing. It's not a personal journey of I'm said person, like that's me and this is my everyday antics. It wasn't that. It was a platform built that had a strong social influence, that had its website, has its blogs, its articles, its reviews and all the rest of it. Similar to a GQ. Damage was one of the first around, and like he's done an incredible job.
Yeah.
And one of the first I used to read back, when I was 18, and he's been around in space for a similar sort of time, a couple of years before me. But it's one of those things where you had the strength in social, and Instagram, which was nothing at the time.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like you found this thing and you've, there's the obvious elements of you learnt to tell a story because you didn't want to be the face of it. You had
to tell it in a different way.
Yeah, had to tell in a different way, which in a way made you unique in your own way. And then you found this platform, which was Instagram, which for you, it sort of seems as a natural born salesman, as you learnt from your dad, it was like, wow, this is a big deal.
Growth. Yeah. And hey, I can monetize
I can do other things.
Yeah. And Tailored Man has changed my life.
Yeah.
I would not have met Laura if it wasn't for the Tailored Man. And there's no direct correlation, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I would not have had the opportunities in life that I have if it wasn't for the Tailored Man, or being first in the space. If I was to start the Tailored Man right now, it doesn't work. The space Instagram, the algorithm doesn't allow for it. It's saturated.
Yeah.
I started where there was no one. Okay, a few people overseas. Yeah, that worked, but I'm going to tweak it differently. But I don't want to be the same as Damage. I don't want to be the same as GQ. What's our point of difference? So our point of difference has to be affordable fashion, basic outfits. Now, it changed a lot in that 2 to 3 years. Website came along. We're going to do reviews. We're going to do food. We're going to do little bits and pieces. But the core element is that fashion advice. So those narratives and that storytelling, which was more of like first time I reared my head was this trip. But the narrative was the trip, exploring Europe with Aquila. That was the narrative. Oh, we're in this city, we're in that city. And now you see it all the time. There's for meals, trips, influencers go everywhere, Coachella, whatever it might be. We'll pay you to go here, And that was really, like, in fairness, like Aquila were probably ahead of their time. Yeah. Probably one of the first to do it. Now, if that was a massive global brand, everyone would be like looking at that campaign saying, whoa, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, now they're doing it. And that's probably 2 years after it.
How did then, Because one of the things you've done now is you've stood back from Tailored Mound. You're now creating a new business, Bullfrog Media.
Mm-hmm.
And now, did you co-found this with Martin as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And Marty has been incredible. He's been a part of the journey, not from the get-go, from the Tailored Man point of view. But like I said, that first trip in Europe, which is 3-4 years ago now, that was one of the first gigs we did together. And Marty is an incredibly talented guy. He's got an architectural degree. He's got a design degree. He's a bit older than me as well. But it's one of those things. He's such an all-round creative guy. He picked up a camera and now is a pretty incredible photographer, which a lot of people know and don't know is that, he picked up a camera just because I asked him to. I said, can you take this? This will be handy for the Tailored Man if you can take a photo.
Wow, are you kidding?
Oh, literally. It was a hobby.
Fuck.
Yeah, no. One of our first shoots.
So 3-4 years ago is when he first started.
Essentially. And now he's a very, very, very good photographer.
I thought this has been his entire career.
Nope.
And he's just the guy that you had to do photography or videography or whatever.
He was not a freelancer. His first gig for me was writing architectural interior design articles.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
Through another guy at the time that worked for me and a very good friend, Josh Bosen, who now is still in the space.
Yeah.
He's no longer working with us anymore. But we're mutual friends. He was friends with Marty. I had actually met Marty at Falls Festival just out of school at 18.
Really?
And I was like, this guy's so kooky and weird at the time. But how things change. We're now best mates, business partners, and he's largely been a part of this journey from the get-go. And shapes a lot of the storytelling with me from the get-go. So the briefs and the partnerships and things a lot of that has come from Marty.
Right.
Just as much as me.
Why did you both go, this is the next thing we want to do, this is why we want to do... where did this idea of an agency come out?
Well, it wasn't so much... I would say this is where it goes to business partnerships, knowing each other's roles, all the rest of it. I would say I was doing a little bit of marketing consulting stuff while Tailored Man was going on because people tell us how this social media, what's it doing? And it was pretty soon. It was probably one of the first campaigns where that strategy or that social media strategy that was starting to get implemented. Maya hit us up to do their autumn-winter campaign.
Right.
And it'll share on the Tailored Man, but we'll use it for all our assets. And this is going back 3-4 years ago.
Right, so it was
probably 3 years ago.
It was bigger than just, we want to do this with you.
No.
We want you to do an entire
Correct.
campaign.
We want you to do the entire campaign. We want all the assets. We want, video, etc., etc. And I was like, I can do that because it's not just about me. I wasn't even featured in the campaign at all. It was other influencers in the spaces, Sam Wines, Roberto Malizia, and Sean Burley.
Okay.
3 mates.
Yeah.
I said, boys, let's get you in this. I wasn't involved in it and produced it from the back end.
Okay.
But
how long ago was this, by the way?
This would be probably 3 years ago now. So what?
Okay.
1, 2. Yep, 3 years ago.
3 years. Okay.
So three winters ago, really. And that was the first time that I started to realise, along with doing little bits and people picking my brain, how'd you build this social, or how'd you do this, or how should you go about this? And those little questions that started to sort of stick to me 3 years ago, and I'm like, that's what I love. Is that deeper layer strategy, online, digital. How do we execute a campaign and nail every asset in this new media world?
Uh-huh.
Not buying ads in papers or anything like that. Is how can we execute the storytelling that the storytelling can get as maximize the reach as possible? And this is before insights were even on Instagram and you can see how many people it's reached and all the rest of it. How can we do ads but tell a story at the same time so it's very subtle? So, hey, what did we do? Maya came to us. I said, all right, let's create a boys' weekend so we can all have fun. We'll go down to Montalto. They'll stay in the city. They'll have facials. We'll have lunch. We'll do this. And we'll shoot the whole thing. And they're just wearing Maya clothes.
It's a good idea.
But that's... Hey, they can have a red wine, they can have a vino, they can have whatever. And you know what? You know what we'll weigh into this? We'll weigh in Mercedes-Benz because they're a great friend of mine and we can have some Mercedes-Benz content. We can have QT Melbourne. So in that one partnership or that one campaign, there was 6 to 7 partners.
I'm seeing now what Laura was saying to me before.
Oh, what was she saying?
She was saying this element of relationships. So when I asked her a few questions about you, she said how important building relationships have been. She's saying that you would never text someone, you typically call them up if you can help it.
Yep.
Most of the time, it now makes a lot of sense. you know, it seems that it's just it's like they're in a petri dish and it's all come together.
It's a story. It's a long story, and hopefully I'm not boring everyone. But it's relationships. So many people undervalue relationships.
Yeah, which you would have learnt at football clubs. Because football clubs are like paramount of...
And from everyone who's the volunteer helping with the training to filling up the water bottles, everyone deserves respect. And I think the biggest problem with society at the moment, people treat people like shit.
They really fucking...
And the worst part is I see it probably even more than tenfold now with the girls having the profile that they do.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of messages a day those girls get.
Well, you guys must get it all the time.
And I've had it in the past. They're in a totally different ballgame because these girls have let down their walls. They're on show. Like, their lives are on show. You know, I would say 80% of our lives is there to be seen because that's why it works, because they're so relatable. Now, people always heckle them and be rude and write terrible things around. How can you talk because you're gorgeous? Or how can you... So what, we're not allowed a voice because...
Yeah, I've always found that so strange. Like, we had this thing today. Actually, I responded to this comment on one of our videos because a few of the comedians that we've had on a big roundtable posted it on their own profiles. And so now our entire YouTube page, which we just launched, has been flooded. And someone left a comment. It was like, only X amount of views. Like, geez, you really understand the net or something like that. It's like, mate, you're sitting there doing nothing, offering no value.
Why comment?
Throwing shit at someone else. I think you need to really take a look in the mirror. Like that to me, because Laura posted something recently about bloating during her period or something like that. Yeah. And like, fuck, some of the comments on that, it's just like, why do these people even care so much?
Could you imagine them saying it to your face, though?
They'd never do it.
Exactly.
Ever.
So,
no one would ever say that to you.
Oh, and if you got the balls to do it, be my guest.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, and going back to, you know, the relationship elements and stuff like that, is that, you know, whether it's valuing, it's finding value and a value proposition from a partnership like that Maya campaign that 7 people can interject and they're happy to be part of it. Showing that value that Laura's going to go out online and say, this is me, this is who I am, these are my walls down, and I'm here to share my story or my relatable aspect.
Yeah, hopefully it can help.
Hopefully it can help, but if it's not you, don't worry.
No worries.
Don't
go
stress.
On to the next thing.
When it's negativity, and you know what happened recently over the weekend, and it's recent. It's not so much, you know. And Laura, and I should not speak on her behalf because she can definitely do it herself. But it's not so much Laura was affected. She was just more like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why do it?
It's just such a natural... it's a human thing to think that because you've got these people there throwing shit at you, but it is weird, isn't it? Like, you would never do it anywhere else.
And and I look at it as like... you know, tall poppy syndrome is a massive problem in society, you know, and Australia particularly. Yeah, exactly. And I look at it similar to earlier, like... I referenced what you could call, some people would say competitors, Damage, the 5 people in that space, I call them my peers.
Yeah.
And other publications. If I'm disrespectful, I call them competitors. It's not a competition. There's 5 of us in the space, there's enough to go around. That's how I look at it. No, there's no like, oh, he got that job, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Plenty of brands in the sea.
Yeah, because you, through osmosis anyway, you respect what they're doing.
100%. And there's that respect. I just think there's and what online and digital has created is... well, hey, I can be a keyboard warrior, no dramas, and nothing's going to happen to me. And we've only seen a couple of times where things are blowing up, Israel Folau or this. And like, you know, those people with public profiles have even more pressure because they're watching everything they're doing.
Yeah, it must be really... It's weird. We're in a weird situation because so much of what you guys have done is built off the back of social media, but in a way, like, you open yourself up and then all of a sudden some schmuck is having
to
go.
Pull you down. Yeah. And those girls, and I take my hat off to them, they have such hard shells. I've never copped the things that they cop.
Yeah.
You know, the Taylor Man is totally separate. You know, like, people are not there. They don't know. It hasn't got a persona. It hasn't got a person. Yeah, I'm the founder, but people will either do that on my personal channel or they can, what are they going to say on the Taylor Man? You know, like, go for it. Or we feature someone, e.g. a Tim Robards or whoever it might be, or a Dylan Alcott, people will have their say on that. They'll either support it or they just won't like it. And that's up to them. That doesn't faze me. It's not a direct attack at me. It's just the product or the content that we're producing. They're critiquing that. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But when it's things like what happened recently over the weekend, and just in general, really, you see it all the time, is it really necessary to bring someone down when they're trying to do good? No.
God, no.
Like,
it's so dumb.
So if they're not saying it, who's saying it?
Yeah.
And what is the power of online and social, and especially with Steph and Laura having such relevant positions in the health and wellness space, their intentions are only good.
Well, the frustration I had with that was it's people applying their morality on others. Like, you can say when someone is doing particularly nasty, let's say if, I don't know, Laura put out saying crazy nasty. I don't know what example I would use, but I doubt it's going to happen, right? Let's just say that I
don't think she's got a nasty bone in her body, but
exactly.
I've tried to find it. It's just not there.
But that's my point, is like it's very rare in the circumstances, but it's always like I see the comments and I see those things, and it's always someone trying to apply their moral framework of life on that other person, which I've just, yeah. And it's one thing because we've had very deep conversations on the podcast with people about this, and it irritates the shit out of me. And
like I said, I don't want to harp on that aspect, but it's just, unless you can, like, literally, if you're comfortable saying it to the person's face, go for it. If you're not, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't hide behind a keyboard because it's never going to hurt anyone. You know, the amount of times that Laura might have got a message and someone's tagged someone in a photo or a friend, and you send it to your friend or send the post to a friend like, oh my God, have a look at this. They've done that and accidentally sent it to Laura, and she's like, hi, just so you know, I do read my messages. And they're like, oh, no, I didn't mean that. So hang on, you didn't mean that graphic comment, and now you're saying you didn't mean it? Like,
Jesus.
Okay.
God, I can't imagine.
Like, I'm human too. People take away that human aspect from social media because there's no physical contact.
I can't imagine what your phones are like. It must be like a nightmare at times. I am very grateful to be doing what I love, and I love every minute, but there's not much downtime. And running a business, running your own business, there's no such thing as downtime. You're always thinking. And renovating a house.
That's a totally different ballgame, and I would not suggest it to anyone. But it's, unless you've got the time to do it. But it's one of those things that running your own business is a really tough slog. There's so many ups and downs, and every day is a new journey. And also every day there's unknown. You don't know where it's going to come from, or what the next job will be, or what this will be, especially on an online and digital world. And yeah, putting that phone down time, we really try to have a rule, like after dinner, it's down.
Yeah, this makes a lot more sense now.
It's, what does it make sense to?
No, like, you know, her talk, she spoke about that. Like, we were chatting about it before, like having, you know, the front door's the door, and that's where it ends as much as possible. And
sometimes, yeah, exactly. And you can endeavour. I would say we're not perfect, and we definitely don't do it every night, because some days we're just under the pump and you just have to get it done.
You just got to do it.
And that's a conscious, we actually like to, if it is with each other, we're like, hey, I have to work till at least 8:30 tonight, and almost put it out there, because you're like holding each other to it, because or else there's so much stuff I could be doing. I could be on my laptop all night.
You just keep going.
We wake up at 6 a.m. We go to the gym. We normally do our workout. That's our routine. And a couple of hours before 9 o'clock, before everyone, you know, is in the office technically, but we've done a couple of hours work, or we're doing this or sorting things out for the day, or whatever it might be. But when it comes home that night, we like to, you know, we could keep working all night. And some nights we do. We just, we call it out and say, I have to work tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll try be present as much as possible, but it's by almost saying it out loud, we're both committing to each other, if that makes sense.
It's a good way. No, you're imposing some sort of responsibility to that, which makes you more likely to do it.
And responsibility to each other, because both running our own businesses, it's bloody tough. It's and there's so many more people out there that are running their own businesses and running it with their partner, or running it with, you know, people that, you know, you might not necessarily switch off. Everyone is different, but having that switch off time, it's the one downside of my job, is that online and digital, what's it going to be on? Laptop, phone. and mostly you can do it on your phone now. So it's one of those things that it can follow you everywhere. It's just whether you choose it to consume you.
It's a very wise thought, I think.
Well, it's
something that I battle with all the time, and I'm not
perfect. Like I said before, we try. We do try, and some days we're just like, nah, we just chuck it away. Because it was really interesting that, you know, I learnt this through my footy journey, and I had my life balance when I was playing football. Like I said earlier, I was very obsessive and this and that and juggling a lot of things and working outside and wanting to do this and whatever. Like one person said to me that the world will not end if you don't reply to an email.
Yeah.
It got to the stage where I couldn't even sit at lunch without my phone and checking it for an hour. I used to scoff my lunch 10 minutes, and I don't normally eat a lot during the day as it is because I'm running around or whatever it might be. And lunch was never a priority. I blame my dad for that. He only ever eats one meal a day.
Really?
And we have a bit of a joke in the team that we don't eat on shoot days, which is some days we don't. We have a coffee, quick eat, boom.
You're lucky.
We're onto it. You know what I mean? But and not everyone does that, of course, and I totally understand that. But it's that understanding of taking that time out. Like I said, I could not sit there without an hour of my phone. I'd out of habit, I'd scoff my food in 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, geez, I've got 50 minutes. What am I going to do? I'm going to read the paper. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm done. Like, now what am I going to do? And it was a really reality shock for me at that time.
Yeah, this is a problem that I've had to deal with. I realized I was addicted to that thing.
And the further part to that, without getting too much into it, mid-football season, I got a really bad bout of vertigo.
Okay.
Which was uncontrollable.
You must have had like a knock or something.
They don't know. I still suffer with it now.
Really? I had horrendous vertigo when I was 19.
And you know what it was called? It was vestibular migraines was the root of it all. It's a headache that creates vertigo-like symptoms.
Really?
And I still have it now. Still have to monitor it because I know if I'm wearing myself thin, I start to get it back. So I am very conscious of when I'm burning myself out because at that time when it happened, I couldn't walk for 2 weeks.
Really?
And this is when I saw a sports psychologist.
Fuck.
And that's when life started to sort of spin into reality. That was my last year at Box Hill Hawks. I then, at the end of that season, moved to Port Melbourne, did my knee in round 2.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to Port Melbourne, I had a really new look on football, life, work-life balance, relationships in my life, family, downtime, not downtime. And I was arguably in the best shape of my life, and I did my knee in round 2.
This reminds me of what I had in the last 18 months. In the last 6 months in particular, I found out I had health anxiety. I had no idea. I thought, because I had these food intolerances, and it just sort of spun out of this over the last 6 years, these bad habits that you get into, and you're working so much, and you've got all these things going on, and then bang, all of a sudden you can't really eat properly. You're restricting yourself.
Can't swallow.
Yeah, I had that.
And it's literally, I learnt from this sports psych, and she does so many top-tier professional athletes. It's incredible. And now, obviously, this is going back 4 years ago, that there's so much more emphasis on mental well-being and mental health and all that sort of stuff, which it wasn't really a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't really a thing 4 years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
It was definitely relevant, and it was definitely a discussion point at AFL clubs, 100%. But it really gave light to... There was nothing... Yes, there was something technically wrong from a medical sense, but a lot of it was manifested with the power of the brain and my actual thoughts.
Yeah.
And like you said, I can't swallow. I remember going out as I was recovering from the dizzy spells. I used to think I couldn't walk, and it literally, me having positive thoughts and just walking, I would walk, and all of a sudden I'd gain that confidence back.
Really?
I was scared to go down the shops without falling over.
Wow.
And that shook a lot of things up. And I would say that would be a turning point for a lot of things of how I run my business and my downtime and understanding. I don't suggest anyone to go burn themselves out. I did. It's not fun. And I would say it was a blessing it happened when I was young because it sort of gave me the understanding as things, and I'm the busiest I've ever been now. But I can manage that. And yes, I have a medical condition, but I can manage it because I'm not killing myself. Now, I work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. Whenever I need to work, I work. Like I said, we put our phone down and all the rest of it, but I'm on all hours of the day. Now, but here I am on all hours of the day, but I've learnt to when to back off and when to put the foot on.
Yeah, and that's something that I've had to learn in the last 4 months in particular. It's hard.
It's bloody tough.
It's
and
really hard.
I wouldn't wish anyone burning themselves out or having, it might not be what I went through, but similar sort of things of lack of creative burnout, just hating their job. You know, it happens. You see it. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it with close friends. Like I said, I'm extremely lucky to do what I love. I do what I love doing, and I can call that my job, and I earn an income from it, and like it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to have because it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Because
but it's just learning to manage it
but
better.
There's some weeks I get home and you feel like you can't breathe, and I'm sure everyone goes through that moment. You're like, Jesus, like, got to go again. Like, I've got to get up again. And to be honest, like Steph and Laura, like a lot of people have false pretenses. Oh no, they're everyone else is running it for them. That
fuck no.
Those girls work harder than anyone I've seen.
Yeah. Well,
I've seen.
Just on that, what have you learnt from those two and what they've done with Kick? Like, if you could hone out like one principle or lesson there, is there something that really stands out?
You know what's really funny?
What?
When I go into meetings for the media agency and strategy, they always come up, and obviously people know I'm linked to Laura, but I use them as a case study. I say like their combination of what they've achieved from social, online presence, their own personal brand. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to get that growth or that reach unless, you know, and this is not in the same vein as them. It's unless you're a TV reality star come out of nowhere, you're a Kim Kardashian second cousin, sister, brother, rah, rah, rah. All of a sudden you're here. Their sheer work ethic and understanding of their brand and their morals is arguably where they are now. But like I said to you earlier in the kitchen, best friends, working with friends full stop, working with partners that you're in a relationship with is really bloody tough.
Yeah.
But when people think they've had it easy and all the rest of it,
no, bullshit. You can't get to where they are now without, one, a really good understanding of marketing and influence, and two, hard work.
But like I said, they started in a similar time where Instagram was nothing. Steph was probably the first Instagram girl, or one of. And I'm not to put it, it's almost disrespectful chucking her in that bracket because she's not that.
Yeah.
She's a businesswoman, and so is Laura. But their journeys have also changed in the last 4 to 5 years, and they've realised the responsibility that they're in and the influence that they have. And they treat that like what we're talking about earlier with what happened last weekend and the criticism and the negative. They wear that on their sleeve, but they take it and use it as a learning experience. Everything they do, they're meticulous as far as, we've ticked this box, we tick this box, we tick this box, but we can grow, we can do more. And they are, like, you know, they release a podcast, they're number one in the country.
Yeah, I know, it's fucking ridiculous.
Which I sit there as someone, you know, running a media agency, marketing agency, pitching out strategies and all the rest of it. Like, how can we do that? You can't. Just scrap it, because that is a pure understanding of marketing.
Yeah. And
neither of them have marketing degrees. That's a pure understanding of their target audience. They're working their ass off to make it happen.
The community.
And understanding the community. Like, people love to feel a part of something. And the best thing about Kick, it's inclusive of everyone. And anyone can be a part of that community. Guys, for even, yes, it's targeted to girls. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be doing those jump squats. They bloody hurt. But it's that sheer work ethic and the understanding of both their roles in the business. They both bring different aspects to the business, but they're both working just as hard in those aspects. And how many people have been best friends and broken out of business? Heaps. You hear of all the horror stories, and there's only a handful that still work. I look
it's
at
beyond rare.
And like I said, me and Marty are very best friends. He's probably best man at the wedding. You might know that now, but it's one of those things that not even our relationship. We've got a great understanding between personal and work, and that's why it's worked so well. But those two are just yin and yang. Like, it's how they work. It just blows me away. Like, and both a complete understanding for what Keep It Cleaner means, and it means the world to them. And Steph's got other side businesses and things like that. Keep It Clean is her main baby, and so definitely it's Laura's main baby. But it's that complete understanding of what their goal is, and it's like they're looking 2 years ahead already of where they're going to be. Because the realistic aspect, it's not going to last forever, but the brand can last forever with the right strategy built from the get-go. I turned around to the girls the other day and I was like, looking at the podcast, hit number 1 in the country, like not just in health, but number 1 in the country. And then the top 3 episodes are top 3 in health. Yeah. And top 2 in the top 10 of episodes. And I'm like,
yeah, that's something.
And because it's really podcasts, there's such a value in it, and an amazing value in it. And I've seen it with the girls like Shameless, who Laura and I have been massive admirers of Michelle and Zara from the get-go. And different tone of voice to what the girls are doing from a Keep It Cleaner point of view, but there's so much value now because people are consuming media in different ways. And that's that understanding. YouTube for them, yeah, they've had 50,000 views on a video. It's so time consuming to cut, edit, do videos, all the rest of it.
It's a lot of effort.
A lot of effort. It's easier for the girls to talk and interview someone about real life situations like we're doing right now and relate it back to their audience. Because really, I worry. I've got a younger sister who's just turned 21, and that's not even really young, but that next generation, I worry about where they're going to fall into this. I even look at some of the things her and her friends are doing. I'm like, Jesus, it was cool to smoke when I was that age. Like not to do half the things that's going on, but that's society changes. And really the main goal for girls is to try help that next generation.
You are, by the way, you've got how many sisters do you have?
I have 2.
Okay. You and your, I saw your sister. I was like, Jesus, that is your sister.
We're pretty much identical. Well, no, we're not identical, but you can tell it's my sister.
You can tell straight away. It's the same smile, I think.
We've got the same forehead. Very gifted with a big forehead, thanks to Dad.
I realise we're getting over time. I don't want to. I know you're a busy boy, but I want to just touch on one last thing because this was something I asked Laura, and I think we should talk about it. And I asked her. I was keen to find out what is that she admires about you. And so what she said was your confidence in a way has indirectly made her confident. I don't know whether she's ever said that to you, but it's just allowed her to be more confident in that process. And she's also noticed that you've been very, I guess, selfless because no doubt with the whole kick thing, their schedule is just insane. So I'm curious then, she said that about you. What do you respect the most from her?
It's an interesting one. And like it probably, I think I've, based off what I last said about both the girls, like there's an incredible, enormous amount of respect I have for both girls. But obviously Laura being my fiancé and the girl, the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with, when we first met, 3.5 years ago or whatever it is, it's
at a Christmas party or something.
Christmas party, a modelling Christmas party, which even that word, you say that to the girls now, they're not models. They're just, that's who they are. And they, a lot of things they don't like about that industry. But we met at a modelling Christmas party, having a dance. I was with a few good friends and we met. Basic court. Next morning, we're at an event together for Mazda.
Right.
And she was hungover at the time, which Laura does not drink much at all. And it was hilarious. And she's just like, her first impressions of me, she's like, oh, this guy's so confident. Oh, he's annoying, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, she said you're wearing white pants.
What? I can't believe she went to that detail. What a stitch up.
She said, I actually didn't like Dalton very much at all when I first met him, as he was wearing white pants and thought he was a bit arrogant. Well, that's rough.
No, well, it's, and like I said, I am very confident in my ability, but I'm never going to push something that I'm not confident in. And I'm a massive believer in not preaching about stuff you don't know. And hence, I'm so lucky to have an incredible team around me that are all experts in different areas. I'm not an expert in everything. No one can be. But my team that I have, including Marty and the rest of the guys and girls, they're amazing at what they do. And it's that strive for perfection. But going back to your question with Laura, she had a lot of self-doubt when I first met her, and which might baffle you saying it now. And like people look at what she's built. She's documented her journeys with modeling and body issues and health disorders and eating disorders, things like that. She's documented that. She's been very open with that, and so has Steph in their own ways. But Laura, I guess at the time I was doing something I love, all the rest of it, and Keep It Cleaner was just an ebook at that stage.
It was.
And it was doing very well. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, we're just making some recipes. Like, this is great. And I'm like, just keep pushing. And I guess, we were friends for a good 6 months before we even started dating.
Yeah.
And we definitely didn't hang out on weekends or anything like that. At the time she was in a relationship. And it was one of those things, it's 6-8 months went by and I was like, she'd got out of the relationship. And I was like, we always just saw eye to eye, but it was really one of those things. She's such a, as people see now, she's such an infectious personality. That personality hasn't changed. She's bubbly, energetic, always happy, always smiling. People always say, why is she always happy? It's just her. She's not always happy, but it's...
Well, yeah, she's the type that, like, you know, you can see she sort of smiles with her eyes. Like, there's a certain amount of people that have that.
It's, careful.
But, like, it's one of those things that, like, you know, that constant beaming, the smile.
And that's, you know, that's why little negative comments here and there, you know, sometimes it's just like, why? Like, I'm only trying to help or do. She is so selfless. But, you know, as far as where Keep It Clean has gotten to now and sort of finishing that question, and what I admire is, like, she works her ass off. She's still doing a law degree.
I know. That's
like, which is like, she's going to be a lawyer once she nails this, but, like, she only has the time to do one subject a semester. And, she, you know, she laughs because she now has to go back and do a first year subject, and she's like, oh my God, I'm going to be with like 18-year-olds and here I'm that mature age student. But she just wants to get it done because she's that type of person. She's sitting there doing it the other night, an essay and all the rest of it. And you know, the craziest part about it is, like, going back when she started that, she got an enter score that actually exceeded what she thought she was going to get, and then was like, oh, I may as well do law now. She didn't have that predetermined, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Right.
She wanted to do dietetics, nutrition, you know, things like that. And she's like, oh, I may as well dabble. She dabbled, and now, if anything, her business experience and acumen has helped her with her law degree and made it, almost broke it down, because she's done contracts now, she's done this, she's almost learnt the bases of law from her own experience, which not everyone has that opportunity.
Well, it's a good way to cut your teeth.
It's a great way to cut your teeth, and it's one of those things that, you know, like I said, she used to doubt herself, and I would not sit there and say she has done more for me than she has done for, you know, like vice versa. Like she is a lot more considerate of others. I am not. That's just been that's a brutal assessment on it, and that's she has taught me to consider every angle and look at every person, each side of the ledger. Whether it's a partnership, a person, a relationship. And there's been times where relationships, I've mucked up relationships, and that's why I put the emphasis on relationships are so important. It's not that I deliberately tried to muck it up, but like I said, it's one of those things that people interpret things different to other people. And how you see things is not necessarily how someone else is going to see it. You know, she's given me a lot of more... She says I've been selfless in, you know, that kick journey and that growth, and, you know, yep, I might have renovated the house and had to juggle this and all the rest of it, but when do you get to do what Laura does and change people's lives every day? I don't do that. I'm a shark. I'm an advertiser. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, not saying that is, but like, that's, let's just cut the bullshit. Like, that's what it is. Like, she and Steph and her and Keep It Cleaner change lives every day. I don't do that every day. I love what I do, and I love the end product, and I love the grind to get there, and the strategy in every aspect, which can be 2, 6, 12 months, 24 months long as far as building to an end goal with a brand, company, anything. And I love that. But these girls are doing that and changing people's lives at the same time. And it took me that realization and that sort of, that moment is like, what you're doing is a once in a lifetime thing. This does not happen every day. And, you know, like, she still finds time to have balance in her life, which her schedule is out of control. You know, the last 2 months, she's been on, 20 different flights, 6 different locations. She got back from LA, rocked up on New Zealand on the Monday, came to Sydney on the Tuesday.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that was a 2-week period in Sydney for the whole week, LA the whole week before working. And it's, in that time, the business is running, there's staff in the office, there's this happening, there's that happening, there's so many things going on. Yeah. And that's both Steph and Laura. They travel so much. And I hate planes. Like, I'm not scared of planes. I just hate getting on because they're disease ships. But no, it's that's the germaphobe comes out. But yeah, it's their workload is incredible. And it has to give and take like any relationship. I understand what they're doing is so unique. And I'm so proud to be involved and to be able to support Laura and Steph, for that matter, in that growth. And Josh I can speak for Josh, he's the exact same, is that something has to give and take. And I'm very lucky I've got a great team that it's allowed me, probably when we were doing our renovation, that to step back a bit and hand the reins over to Marty and say, I just need you to deal with this while I sort this out. because I've got complete confidence in my team to do the job with or without me. They know the level and the perfectionism of what it's going to be because they're all the same people.
It's a good place to be.
It's an amazing place to be, but it's every day has its challenges like everyone has, and it's just you wake up the next day and go to the next.
Now, I want to jump into these quick, short questions.
Fast fire ones, yeah.
Fast fire ones. What does your morning routine look like? I think you mentioned it before.
Laura nagging me to come to the gym with her, me giving in, espresso, go to work.
Okay. No breakfast in the morning?
No, I don't normally eat breakfast. I have a coffee. I would like to say that I fast till about midday, and this is just something that's worked for me, and it worked with me in football. I largely have a paleo-based diet. Laura's sister is a strong vegan. She hates me for that thing, but
I've got a sister who's a strong vegetarian.
It's and I've learnt things since then. But it's I don't. Like I said, I blame my dad. He only ate one meal a day, and I sort of got into that habit when I was working with him. I don't emphasise brekkie in the morning and all the rest of it. And even when I was playing football, I was very the same. Which, people would be like, eat your breakfast, have this, protein, blah, 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 blah. But even then, I played probably my best football when I was doing this diet.
Yeah, I prefer to do that as well. I cannot eat first thing in the morning. I never have been able to.
I don't wake up hungry. Some people say I always wake up hungry. I'm like, no, I've got a coffee. I'm good till about midday.
Yeah.
And then I might have something little.
Evening routine. What do you do to decompress?
Well, now with the addition to the little fam of Billy, our little not little golden retriever, he's quite a monster now, but I'll normally get home 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever. It depends. Some days different. I'll walk him straight away. If Laura's home, great, we'll both walk him. Very lucky that we live close to the beach, so it's a really nice place to switch off, and been a massive lifestyle change for us as opposed to living in a city. And we made that conscious decision when moving down there. But I walk him. I'll normally say to Laura, well, what do you want for dinner? Have we got anything in the fridge? And then we'll make probably something keep it cleaner. And me and Laura are creatures of habit. We do a lot of keep it cleaner meals, but she's taught me a lot about eating and what's good and what's not. I never used to, and even, back at the footy clubs, I never used to care. Like, it's like, well, that's a different story. She likes to stitch me up and make out that I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, she said it's healthy, I'll eat it. No, I know what's not healthy. But she's taught me a lot more about that space. So understanding good foods and bad foods, and that's made a massive difference to my energy levels, health, all the things. I've never been unhealthy, I would say. It's just knowing different things and what's got this in it, what's vegetable oil, what's olive oil, what's good olive oil, what's bad. Like, it's not to be anal about every aspect of life, and a lot of what Laura preaches is balance. But yeah, normally it finishes off dinner, put the phones down, and then we'll chat. Normally we don't watch much TV at all.
Okay. Game of Thrones fans?
No, I've never been able to get into it, and that's going to break. We should probably just stop the interview now. But I'm a massive Suits fan, like I said earlier, but like I'm actually rewatching it at the moment. But we're very we talk, we decompress from the day, like sum up the day essentially, and literally we just talk. Like it's interesting, but we're in bed by 9 o'clock too, so there's not a lot of talking by the time you have dinner at 7:30.
Okay.
We try to get in bed by 9 o'clock, so that we can get up at 6 and be ready to go. It's not always the case. I'd say it's more realistic to 10, but we try to get in bed as early as possible.
How many hours sleep a night do you reckon you get?
See, I'm a terrible sleeper. Like I wake up 3-4 times a night, so
wow.
Which sucks. But it's. If I go to bed at 9, at least I know I'm getting 6 hours or something, where Laura sleeps like a log.
Wow.
So she'll get a full 9 hours.
Wow.
But
okay.
Not a full 9 hours, but yeah, she'll try to get 8 hours, and that's why we try to go to bed early. But yeah, I normally wake up a fair bit, and not unfortunately, it's pretty hard to say no to Bill, but he has managed to find his way in the middle of our bed, sleeping all night.
Uh-oh.
Which I cracked it this morning because I'm the only one who wakes up to move him and get him off the bed so I can actually have some space. But Laura's out like a light.
If you had to gift a book to the audience, just one book for Christmas, what would it be?
Well, it's probably the one I've read recently is the F1 Williams team, which the doco is out on Netflix at the moment. Yeah. I would say read the book before watching the doco.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things that get put out on the doco that don't actually, they happen, but they scoot around a lot of in-between sort of stuff. Really incredible I say it's one of the more incredible stories I've seen of a working relationship with someone being in the spotlight and someone playing the support role. Ginny Williams, who's now passed, Frank Williams, who's still alive now, and his daughter Claire is in control of the F1 team. That story of, fit, healthy, young, hungry, all of a sudden a quadriplegic, survived a terrible car crash and life getting flipped on its head.
It sounds like, for those who don't know, the F1 Williams team is one of the only really still standing. Unfortunately, they're not doing great now, but one of the last standing
sole-owned team.
Yeah, sole-owned team that isn't a manufacturer.
And their daughter Claire is their eldest daughter, Claire, or second eldest daughter. I think she's eldest.
I think she's the eldest,
and Jamie's the younger. But she's now the team principal, and heading up. Yep, they're not having a lot of success at the moment, but their budget is very limited compared to other people.
Mercedes,
just an incredible story from start to finish. And obviously, Ginny Williams has now passed, but it was really interesting insight into I would say it was probably what a modern take of a modern relationship is these days. Even though those days it would be frowned upon.
Yeah, it definitely would have.
Just with, bits and pieces of, things now that won't stand, definitely with infidelity and all the rest of it. But obviously everyone's different. Every relationship is different. But it's that pure devotion to each other and understanding of each other that I think is what made it so compelling to read.
Yeah.
And sad as well. It's not a happy read. Like it's a sad one. It's a bit of a tearjerker.
Well, I'm gonna have to get it now.
It's worth it.
Last question for you. Best purchase under $200.
Oh, this is a tough one. Oh,
something from Bunnings last week.
I'm not even going there, but actually, a kettle barbecue from Bunnings. I love open fire cooking, big fan, and that's only $60. But
this is like a charcoal barbecue.
Charcoal barbecue, just your basic kettle barbecue, $60, can't go wrong. But if it was that, it's my $59 Uniqlo black jeans.
Okay, I like that. Good old Uniqlo.
However you say it.
Dalton, it's been a pleasure having you, and we've clocked an hour 30.
Thank you, Jordan.
Where can people find you? What you're up to?
Well, you could probably find either Billy, myself, or Laura on Instagram and all the rest of it. I think it's an easy one to find now. But the Tailored Man's still running along, so you can definitely jump along and check out that. But from what I'm up to day to day, that would just be me personally.
And it's at Dalton Graham, yeah?
At Dalt Graham.
At Dalt Graham.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Thank you for making it to the end. Before you run off, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, or do leave us a rating. For Instagram, go follow us on @uncommon_podcast. For YouTube, search Uncommon Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this video. Also give us a like or leave a comment on what you thought about the episode. But until next time, thanks so much for listening.